Hey, happy Monday. Thanks for joining us on your Monday forecast at lunchtime here, your noon forecast. Your biggest headlines for today are that tornado and wind risk on the East Coast, North Carolina and Virginia, and the storm risk, the main storm risk for today. We do have a low storm threat this week. A lot of places across the U.S. may see thunderstorms, but they're most likely non-severe or very isolated severe. And then we also have that excessive rainfall that will lead to flooding in some parts of the country. We're watching for both flooding and fire risks for today. So of course, if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat. We can see your YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter comments on our screen here. They'll pop up at the very bottom, so we would love to see that. Before we go ahead and get started, we have an upcoming event. This is in Oklahoma City at the Winchester Drive-In. It is a free screening of the movie Twisters. So if you didn't get to see it on Friday when it came out or over the weekend, we would love for you to join us. It starts at 7:30 we've got some fun things like popcorn and face painting, but the movie itself will start at 8:45. So again, that is tomorrow evening at the Winchester Drive-In. If you head to our social media pages, we do have several areas that you can click on a link and you can go ahead and get those tickets. If not, just go ahead and DM our social media pages. But we would love for you to come. And if you are a big weather nerd like we are here and you want to hear more about the Twisters movie, head over to our social media pages. We have a lot of different pictures or videos of us interviewing our CEO, Derek Klein. He was actually an extra in the movie, and he got to tell us his behind-the-scenes stories and kind of how the movie was made from his perspective, and then his thoughts on the movie itself. There's no spoilers there, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, you can head over and watch that video, kind of some behind-the-scenes fun different things that we've seen. Okay, we have a hailstorm highlight, and I actually have all of these corrected on here where it was in Loveland, Colorado, Fort Morgan, Colorado. However, I have the wrong map up here. So if you want to see that, you can head over to hailtrace.com. Some of the biggest hail sizes here were up to 1 inch and 3/4 on Saturday, and over 250,000 homes were impacted there. So hailtrace.com is where you can see that map. Yesterday's storm reports. Moving to Sunday now, we had a good amount of wind reports across the entire U.S. Wind reports off to the east. We had a hail report out in South Carolina. We had a tornado report in Louisiana, and even more hail reports farther out to the west in Colorado and in New Mexico. Right now, we're still getting rain across Oklahoma. We're getting rain out to the east as well, but over the last 24 hours, we've seen some very isolated good amount of rain further down to the south here, anywhere from Atlanta all the way to Louisiana. Out to the east, we've seen a little bit of rain, but for the most part, it's been pretty isolated across several different states here. Just seeing rain, very spotty, kind of here and there. But as I mentioned, we are getting some showers out in eastern Oklahoma right now, all the way down to Texas. We're getting those showers up the Gulf and then out to the East Coast, where we are expecting storms later on today. You can see those storms, or some of those areas that we'll see storms already getting rain this morning, so flooding may be a risk as we go throughout the afternoon hours. Current conditions look pretty rainy for some of us down in Florida as well. Those showers scattered across Texas, but it's pretty dry out to the west. We don't have any storms here right now. However, I do expect storms up in northern New Mexico later on today. Taking a look at those current temperatures right now, we're in the 70s farther up to the north. We've got the 80s down the East Coast, even seeing some 80s here in places like Oklahoma City and in Texas. We can kind of get a zoomed in version of that here. In central Oklahoma, it looks like temperatures are in the upper 70s and low 80s. Look, we have been below average the past few days, even the past week here in Oklahoma, and it has been very, very nice. On Saturday morning, we had rain throughout the morning, but then the afternoon was very, very comfortable, upper 80s and low 90s. Even in Texas right now, it looks like those temperatures are below average for this time of the year, so that is a big relief, especially because we usually see those temperatures in the 90s at this point. It does look like it's going to warm up as we get into the later portion of July, so like the last week of July, and as we get into the very beginning of August, I think it's going to warm up. So we're going to pay for this cool down eventually, but let's enjoy it while we can. Temperatures in the 80s right now. Of course, Las Vegas, Phoenix are the warmest temperatures that we are seeing in the U.S. Now let's get to that chance for storms. So here's your instability forecast here. This is what the storms have to work with to to become stronger and even more severe. So we need that instability to create those strong thunderstorms. We've got that out in Tennessee. We've got that out in North Carolina, all the way up to Virginia as well. Even some places down into Louisiana and Texas. And I know it doesn't look like much, but we even have that in New Mexico. Oftentimes, some of these states that are just off of the Rockies, even though we don't have a ton of instability to work with, they could even produce thunderstorms by just the little bit that they have. Now, taking a look at your hail forecast for today, I mentioned some of those states farther out to the west could see a little bit of hail. Farther up to the north, we could see hail. And then taking you over to places like Tennessee, maybe even into the western side of Virginia, we could see a little bit of hail in this area as well. It does look like some of the most significant hail could fall in places like northern New Mexico and into Colorado, but even then, you know, we're not going to see a ton today. Okay, it's a very, very low chance for anything significant in terms of hail sizes today. If a few thunderstorms could get a few hailstones out, we're going to call that a win. Okay, taking a look at that hail forecast, by the way, I told you there's 3 areas that we're watching for some very small hail across the country. It's a low risk. Again, today, tomorrow, Wednesday, all low risks to see hail here. I have Chattanooga at a low risk, Minot also at a low risk, and Santa Fe also seeing that low risk to see some very small hail. Some of the biggest hail sizes that you'll see today will probably be closer to the size of a dime, maybe a nickel. And I think the biggest, if we could see an isolated quarter-sized hail, is possible, but that's the biggest you're going to see. It's not terribly impressive for today, tomorrow, or Wednesday, as I mentioned. Now, one of the more impressive risks that we do have today will be that wind risk, and that'll be off into North Carolina and Virginia. We could see up to 75-mile-per-hour wind speeds here, so that is in the severe zone. And I still have a low risk for that, but honestly, I was right on the line. I thought low to moderate risk here. All right, we have a comment on here. Thanks for watching today. Love your channel. Hope everyone is doing well. I think we're doing pretty well, especially with those lower temperatures. We're enjoying that here at Hail Trace. Everyone goes on a walk in the mornings, and I think they're really enjoying some of those cooler temperatures. Okay, let's go back to the forecast for today. We're talking about that tornado risk. So if we do see a tornado isolated, it will be out in this side of the country. We're talking the East Coast here, North Carolina and Virginia. Again, it is a low risk for a very isolated tornado, if anything at all. So we'll be keeping an eye on that today. These are going to be the strongest storms that you'll see in the country in this small area on the East Coast. Taking a look at the future radar here, you can see some of those isolated storms could go a little bit stronger today, turning scattered by the afternoon and evening hours. And we have even a few showers and storms that will produce that hail risk farther back to the west. But of course, the stronger wind and that tornado risk will be farther off into the east through this afternoon and evening. We're going to continue to watch some of these showers and storms as we head into the afternoon. So we're kind of bringing you back to the west here. Still watching those storms as we head into the evening hours. I do want to head farther to the west. There we go. There we go. New Mexico here, the northern side of New Mexico. A few isolated showers and storms. We could see that very, very small hail. It's possible. It's looking a bit unlikely for most of us, however. And then up to the north, we're talking North Dakota here. Isolated storms later on in the evening. So we'll look at New Mexico during the afternoon, North Dakota during the evening hours, for some isolated storms that could go on the stronger side, isolated severe here. Okay, taking a look at the future radar for Tuesday, it looks like showers and storms will continue through a good portion of the U.S., but most of them will be non-severe. That means very, very small hail and minor wind gusts, not looking at anything too damaging here, but we could see a flood threat farther down to the south and east, even up the East Coast here. Once again, some of those areas that are getting storms today will also get storms tomorrow. So if you have any plans to go to the beach, specifically Virginia Beach, it may be rained out. It's going to be a very, very rainy next few days in this area. Okay, taking a look at that temperature outlook. Actually, we have one. There we go. I want to talk about the flood threat that goes all the way through the East Coast. If we're talking about any states that are touching the Gulf Coast here, they are also in a flood threat. Showers and storms leading to excessive rainfall. It doesn't matter how much rain you're getting, it matters how fast you're getting that rain. So too much rain too quickly is going to lead to that flood risk. That all the way down into southern Texas, where we have an even higher risk for flooding. That continues further off to the west into places like New Mexico. We could also see some flooding along with that hail risk here as well for today. And then out to the north and west, we have an elevated fire risk. So some very, very dry conditions in this area. We have some thunderstorms that could increase that fire risk in this area. That would be now, the mid-morning hours, all the way through the late afternoon. All right, now let's get to that temperature outlook. I told you earlier that even though we were below average today, it looks like temperatures are going to swing the other direction and bring us above average as we head into August. So enjoy it while you can, because it looks like we have warmer weather on the way. This is for the last week of July, and I already looked into August, and it looks like we're going to be above average for August as well. Talking about that 5-day rain chance, we're seeing the most amount of rain in that area that I mentioned, that potential flooding. So we have excessive rainfall outlook in this area, anywhere from North Carolina and Virginia, all the way down to Texas, and even places out to the west into the Four Corners. It looks like we could see up to 3 to 5 inches, even higher than that in some places down in southern Texas and places like Houston. And that is exactly, if we look a little bit farther out here, that is where we're watching for some of those the above average rain chances to continue as we head into the end of July. So watch for flooding in some of these areas. Hopefully what we get out of this here is less flooding and more just like greened up areas. But my concern with this is that if we get a ton of rainfall, it's going to increase the humidity as we go through like later in the summer. So whenever it gets really hot in August and you have high humidity, it is going to be just miserable in this part of the country. We've got that high humidity, we've got that heat. It's going to be very hot. Okay, let's take a look at that, your social media here. We really want you to follow us. As I mentioned earlier, we do have several videos out right now about the Twisters movie, that behind the scenes look from our CEO, Derek Klein. He had his storm truck in the movie. He was also behind the scenes in the movie. So he has a lot of fun stories that we have put on our social media. So you can watch the full thing, or you can watch those small clips on our social media. And if you're interested in any of our maps, we can get you set up on a plan here. You can call 855-334-4245, there you go. And you can email us at info@hailtrace.com or head over to our website, hailtrace.com. We also have some fun blogs on there that you can take a look at some of the other weather things we like to talk about. I mean, we are all weather enthusiasts here, so you're gonna like that if you're a weather enthusiast as well. There you go, thanks for watching for today. Of course, we'll be back here, same time, same place tomorrow. Join us on Tuesday at noon.